Generally, we don't always like change. We tend to get used to and comfortable with the way we used to things, and sometimes when change is introduced, it's not always looked at in a positive light, especially when something will lose pretty much all of its characteristics that made it special in the first place. So I'm starting this M135i review by removing the Krispy Kreme hat, because this is the first M135i that we can't do donuts in, unfortunately. And being an enthusiast, when they announced the new M135, enthusiasts us, we were quite disappointed, and with good reason. M135 or M140, just before it was, cancelled, has always been a rear-wheel drive little monster. It's been an inline 6 turbocharged tire eater, basically. And now, with the new one, BMW decided to go in the way of making their own version of a Golf R, 2-litre turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. Now obviously the enthusiast not very happy, but that niche of us that exist is not really worth BMW staying in the past for. Of course they had to move forward as a company. So enthusiasts aside, let's jump in the new M135 and see what it's all about. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's look at the new M135i objectively as a whole new car. Because for what it is, it's damn good. That 2-litre 4-cylinder turbo engine is actually BMW's most powerful 4-cylinder engine ever, making 225 kilowatt, that's 300 horsepower, and 450 Newton meters. And because of the all-wheel drive system and 8-speed auto gearbox, which isn't a ZF unit anymore, by the way, they say 0 to 100 in 4.8 seconds. Okay, all-wheel drive, sport mode, traction half off, not full off, gearbox into sport. We should get some pretty good traction. Let's see. Launch control active, and here we are. Oof, got a push on the gear. And there we are, 100 k's an hour. Not bad, not bad. So I've actually tried it a couple times on actually a few different M135i's, the newer ones like these, and they claim 4.8. I've actually got about 5.2, you'll see on the Draggy. I'm sure you'll get it a little bit better in maybe a little bit better weather, but that's what I've managed to do. And pretty fast, come on, let's be honest. 225 kilowatts, 300 horsepower. It's not a rocket ship, but it's a fun little hot hatchback. Not as fun as doing big drifts and slides though, it has to be said, but quite a fun car overall. So look, it feels like a sensationally well put together car. The understeer is actually not too bad unless you're pushing it very hard. Then you do get a little bit of understeer from the four-wheel drive system, well, all-wheel drive system. Steering is very good, very sharp. Doesn't give the most feedback, but it's more than good enough. But just the general feel of this car is so much more refined. It's so much nicer to drive on a daily basis. It's just a whole level up from the older generation of M135i. It feels a lot more comfortable, like you could do a lot more kilometers in this car quite easily, and the ride is actually pretty good, quite comfortable also. And you do get adaptive dampers also, so comfort mode, but even in sport at the moment it's quite comfortable. The gearbox is not a ZF though. It's 8-speed, but it's not actually a ZF. And I gotta say the ZF is slightly better. This is not bad by any means. It has a nice little pop also on the upshot, but this is not bad at all. Overall, very nice, fun little all-wheel drive car. I really don't have any complaints if I'm viewing it as a car of today, not comparing it to its predecessor. Jumping in the interior of the M135 and the new 1 Series in general, it is leaps and bounds ahead better than the old one. I had the older shape facelift M135i, so I've spent quite a lot of time in this car. This is on a whole nother level. It feels so much more grown up. Everything feels so much better built, and it's quite a bit more spacious in the boot and the rear seat space. So from the interior, incomparable to the old one. Look, this is the future of cars. Whether we like it or not, you got to embrace it. And As an enthusiast, you do miss the old BMW flair. It does miss some of that specialness and that typical BMW essence, you know. But leave the factor of that aside and leave the factor of fun aside. Not saying that this car isn't fun, it's really fun, to be honest, just not as fun as drifting a little BMW around. I would probably take it over a Golf R if that shows you just how fun this car is. But like we said, take the fun factor out of it, and anyone that jumps in the new 1 Series from the old one or from any other similar hot hatch, you'll feel that it is leaps and bounds ahead of the previous generation. It's better in pretty much every single way. For the 5% of us that would take the older rear-wheel drive car because we enthusiasts at the end of the day, it's a little bit sad. But for the 95% of people that just want a good all-rounder car, this is freaking fantastic.